I'm John Graft, and I love Chicago real estate. Between showings, I stop in my favorite places, talk with local business owners, and bring their story to you. This is my Chicago.
So I've known Chris for about 20-ish years now. I was actually moving to LA basically the day he was like, hey, I got a great idea for a grilled cheese place. Like, oh my God, that's amazing. I'm leaving. I would love to be a part of the team, but I got my truck packed and I'm out of here like tomorrow. And then when I got back, Chris was expanding, and I didn't want to just jump right into that, so I ended up getting into Aloha sales, like it was POS sales. Okay. And then from there, I'd say it was like 2013 when I moved back, 2015 when he was opening up the whiskey business and Cheesies in Wicker Park, just expanding tremendously and didn't have like a big team behind him at all. So I kind of just started in just helping him out with the books and helping him out with like accounting. And well, not that I was an accountant, but just really good with numbers. So I worked with his accountants to, get the books as perfect as possible, drop everything in the right buckets. Started in that, then started working in some operations and started working the technology. Before you know it, I was like fully immersed in it and became a partner in 2020. So yeah, it was a really great gift in the middle of a pandemic to the industry that was hit the hardest. Was like, all right, you're partnered in now. So that was really cool. But yeah, this was the first I did like restaurant or location that was just like given full control in a sense.
Complete branch off.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah. I mean, like still trying to keep a lot of the similarities, but we're going definitely down more of an upscale environment compared to like whiskey business and cheesy. So
it's cool to have something that's completely different.
Yeah.
How long did you guys talk about this?
Gosh, what are we? June?
Oh, this place. I thought we were still talking about cheesies.
Oh, yeah.
This place. No, I definitely know. I think it was a mandate.
Yeah.
Mandate to go see Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick, and we're like, hey, talking about.
Wait, that's not even that long ago.
No.
So this is new, even in the thought of the creation.
It's been a pet project idea, but the applicated to the actual space is what kind of like transformed it, and the actual like partnership. There was never going to be something that was going to like just, hey, this is an idea, Brian's going to go run with this, or Tank It Easy is just going to go run with this. We needed professionals to actually grab that torch and run with it. We can facilitate ambiance and those types of things, but the expertise between Chef Daniel putting together our menu that we have now is beyond my wildest dreams. And then also like our cocktails, as far as, Michael Abood just really stepping forward and showing me that game of how that works and how to present, and from a theatrical sense of just being like, this is presentation, and wow, it also tastes excellent. That's the whole thing. I wasn't really like, how do I put this? I was trying to imagine beautiful fish tanks in a room where people could appreciate them, but what these guys have done with this to kind of like take this and turn that to the next level, that's where I hit the wow factor. I was like, oh, well, great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was over a mandate.
Yeah.
We actually kind of pitched it and then blew painter's tape everywhere in this room to show where the tanks would be.
Nice.
And then it was just a matter of executing.
How long has this space been vacant?
So, long story short, this used to be a Blackwood Barbecue. They ended up getting a tenant in here that was a little conflicting with Cheesies.
Okay.
And we kind of worked as much magic as possible to take over the space. We really didn't have a concept in mind, but we had to move fast. So we turned it into a slice of Cheesies. So it's basically like the idea of like all of our cheesy sandwiches, like our signature sandwiches, kind of on top of a pizza instead. Did really well. It took a while to get there, and then the COVID hit. We were all closed down. Did not have enough delivery business to just on the slice of cheesies. So we converted it into a cloud kitchen. So it was a bunch of virtual kitchens. We had a couple of different concepts: burger place, wing place. End up having a good run with that, and then we had like a labor shortage that hit, and we had Cheesy's kitchen and this kitchen. It was really difficult to manage both of them at that time, so we ended up making the decision to close down the kitchen here, migrate everybody over to just Cheesy's, and then that's when we worked on subletting the space. We were with Circle K. It was supposed to take
They've been coming all over the city.
Oh, they're all over. Yeah.
There wasn't one 5 years ago.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah. they were supposed to be here too. They had about 1 week, the week they were supposed to sign the deal, they had some numbers back. They weren't comfortable with anything else that they were not already a signed lease. So that week basically was like, we're not moving forward. That was like 9 months of sitting here, kind of negotiations and everything.
So do you guys own this real estate too?
We lease it. We lease.
Okay.
So it's going to be a sublease.
But you were subleasing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were going to
you're working on the
sublet it.
sublease, which is even more painful because you're still carrying it the entire time.
Yes.
Right.
Very painful. So we sat there. We're like, we can't do that again. We can't sit 6 months waiting for another tenant to take over. And that's kind of when we had our little dinner, and we were talking about the space. And he was like, "Ah, that's such an amazing spot." And I was like, "Yeah, it's amazing. It's expensive." So we were just kind of talking about both our industries and how cool it would be to merge them together. And just put an environment together that you just cannot find, not only in Chicago and Illinois. I mean, there's nothing like it. And yeah, it was in June, and we started, putting the concept together July 1st, and
That's got to be one of the
Basically-
fastest turnarounds ever.
we were a little ambitious, I think, too. We thought it was going to turn around faster, but yeah, I think when you get to the design level that Brian has, it was like we don't want to rush anything. Everything needs to have that look. So it was more important to get this, just to get it open than to get it open right. Yeah. So it was a couple, I mean, the tables, everything really wanted to make sure it was perfect before.
These are beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
So I love the coloring. You have the lighter edges, and then you have this real rich interior on the inside. How do you cool this off? What kind of wood is this?
So primarily we have a lot of walnut going through here. We've kind of chosen different woods based upon the edge of the wood.
Yeah.
So that you can kind of see some, because when we're open, this is a little bit of a darker mood. So something that will stand out, something that will look, forgive the term, I don't know what kind of program this is, but look sexy. We want to make sure that things look high end. Not necessarily because it has to be, unattainable, but just something that looks dramatic.
It looks rich.
Yeah, it looks rich.
Yeah. And you go through, you see all the burnt wood, you see all the coloring, and then how many tanks do you have in here?
There's 8 tanks, 8 different saltwater aquariums. 4 of them are reef tanks, and 4 of them are what we call fish only. So the biggest difference between that is a reef tank has coral and has invertebrate and really kind of encompasses what Finding Nemo was.
Okay.
However, some of our puffers, we have different types of eels that would like to make lunch of a lot of the cleanup crew that is in a reef tank, as well as some of the smaller fishes. However, you would see the puffers and you'd see different parrotfish and birdnose wrasses. You'd see those on the reef. But what they want to do all the time is just take a little bit of a sample of everything. They want to taste it.
Okay.
Not necessarily to eat, but just kind of like, is this good? And they kind of spit it out. I compare those fish to goats. So if you had a beautiful garden in front of your home,
everything.
they just want to nibble and munch and go. And if they don't have, fields or acres and acres and acres of flowers to chew, it's to be very apparent very quickly the damage that was done.
Okay.
So we do keep them separate. However, the lighting throughout is the same.
Does lighting matter for a tank? I mean, I know it does aesthetically, but for the fish and the reef?
Well, it matters a lot for the coral.
Okay.
So the coral are animals, for anyone following at home. They're not plants, they actually are animals. And they consume proteins, and they actually have a skeleton like you and I do. So they actually do form a skeleton, and they actually absorb the calcium, or we might get from our milk and different proteins, different types of food that we'll get. But they absorb it from the water. So we actually have a system in place that it's a really cool company. It's called Neptune Systems, and they have an Apex system specifically that does tank monitoring, and it also does dosing. So it'll dose the calcium and the alkalinity as it's needed, and it'll test the tanks 3 times
So
a
it's
day.
live. Just it's happening whenever it needs to. You don't hands off. You don't have to.
Well, I wouldn't say hands off. I would say you get periods of reset. So from a service perspective, you have to refill it, you have to test, you have to calibrate. There's a lot of different aspects that go into that. That is part of the job of Tank It Easy. So Tank It Easy, we're an aquarium maintenance company, but we are also we do a lot of hand holding because there's different people that would like to have it just taken care of and be wonderful and beautiful. We handle that. But then we also kind of take people that are learning, whether it's children or young adults that want to be a part of the reef community and kind of learn how to do it. But at first, it can be kind of intimidating.
This would be a serious hobby.
Well, I think every hobby's serious, but I think I think once you get into it,
met my friends.
but I think it's just one of the things. Like I consider us basically underwater landscapers. So when the landscapers show up and they want to make a golf course gorgeous, they know how to do it. They have the right equipment, they have the right fertilizer, they have the right. They've really refined their craft to make it look and seem easier than it is, but having that expertise of knowing what dials to turn and what to look out for and how to make preemptive strikes to make sure that it's always showroom quality or it always looks like a country club. That's the goal. Now there are different challenges that show up. I mean, we have a lot of curtains here. Not only is it for the aesthetics, but it's also to keep
stuff.
a lot of the daylight out. When the sun is beating down, what it can do is it can create algae to bloom and to grow too quickly. Not for the wild, because the coral and the rock, even the algae, a lot of the tangs will eat that algae off the rock, but it will actually take that from a showroom quality tank to maybe looking a little bit more like a science project. And so that's what we're always trying to fight, to try to just isolate and showcase the aquarium for what it is. It's a life support system of fish and coral in their brilliance, just showcasing nature, really. But to make them feel and think that they are still in Australia, still on the Great Barrier Reef, still having a very healthy existence by replicating all those. It starts with the lighting, but is definitely amplified by proper filtration and taking out any impurities. And it sounds like a lot, but I assure you, once you kind of get into it, you just kind of fall in love with it. There's certain people that just adore it and it becomes something they enjoy. It's similar to a homeowner. Some homeowners love to mow their own lawn. They get great pleasure in taking care of the landscaping, the duties that go with it. And then at the end of the day, they want to have their glass of whatever and enjoy. And there's other people that just want to skip all of that and go right to the enjoyment process. And I think that's where Tank It Easy really steps up. And I think in this realm was really able to showcase that ability that I think people normally don't get a chance to see unless you're fortunate enough to be friends, invited to a house party at one of our clients' houses, or you're fortunate enough to work in an establishment that invests into an aesthetic like this. So we're proud of it.
Walking in here, if you just blindfolded me, walked me into the room, I'd think I was in the West Loop or in a high-rise somewhere. I mean, there's a lot of tanks here. How many gallons?
It's right around 2,500.
2,500 gallons. And there's really no way this would have been possible if you weren't involved, I'm imagining. I mean, like...
Boy, that sounds really fun. That sounds good. I mean, I would say, humbly, I see where that idea would come from. But at the same time, I think, again, it's really, I got to tip my hat to nature. I'm really showcasing living animals that are in nature. So yes, I think this stands on its own merit in a lot of ways, but I can't take credit for Mother Nature. I mean, literally, everything that you're seeing here is alive, and there's a lot of science that goes into it, but we didn't create it. We're trying to emulate it, what is in nature, again, in the Midwest, which provides its own challenges, such as evaporation. When it's very dry, the drier months, these tanks do evaporate more quickly, but we have technology that helps us with that as well. We have what's called automatic top-off, which means instead of having a glass of water that you have to pour in once a day, I have a reservoir that has a sensor, and when the water evaporates to a certain level, there's a brain, and it signals to that reservoir to push more fresh water back in, so everything's more stable. Think of like a seismograph. You don't want it swinging all over the place. You want to keep things really steady. The fish love it. The coral do too. So as much as we can keep things steady, then it's better for everything, because it really keeps everyone in this comfortable standpoint where their colors are better. The fish, the proteins that we do for, mysis and krill and really good proteins, when they consume those, again, like almost having a child, like doing a diaper change, we do water changes, and we'll do certain things to keep things and take out proteins and whatnot. But in the ocean, that would just happen naturally because a wave would come through or a current. It's a complete circle of life. We have to emulate a lot of that here, but the technology, it's way different than what I would say my dad's tank. went through when I was a child, because the technology just wasn't there.
You're blowing my mind. So I've already changed 5 diapers today, so you're hitting me on that level. And I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you. It's a shame this is only for adults. I mean, you're teaching me a lot. I feel like kids would really enjoy this.
Well, first of all, it's not.
Okay.
It's this is also, we have a family hour designed for families to bring in their children. So, like, tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, that part of the big design is, merging these two together. Grilled cheese, kids love, and this type of environment, it's just magic for kids. So, understanding that, yeah, we have this as that 21 and over lounge on Wednesdays through Sundays. We're starting to get into like the second Mondays of every month for right now. We're going to have a family hour where you could bring your kids in here for like an hour. I think it was like $25, hang out as long as you want here. Some kids' attention spans might be 10 minutes, some might be the whole hour, doesn't really matter. But then after you get to immerse yourself in this, head next door, you get the sandwich included in that little package. So feel like it's I would think it's a kid's dream to be able to watch all this and then munch on a grilled cheese sandwich. So yeah, I can't imagine a better.
Was that part of the
beverage
idea from the beginning, or did that come together as you were putting this together?
It was in the beginning, yeah, it was how do we get a little bit of everything, and trying to figure that out. Yeah,
And just tapping in the one side of the market's only going to give you that part of the market, but if you can tap into it all,
Yeah.
and then the parents get to come in and they're like, wait, so for our kids are on Mondays.
Yep.
And look at this. This would be fun. Babysitter.
Yep.
Come back on the street,
Wednesday.
come back. Yeah.
Yep. And then we're also trying to work with, next stage of that too is trying to work with local schools, and getting a little bit more of a formal, like an actual tour, where we can, take away from the actual environments and walk through and get a little bit more knowledge in there. But that same kind of format, get the kids through and actually have a little bit more time to spend at the tanks with a tour guide, and then still go in and have that cheesy lunch right afterwards.
Plus, you could sell them a tank too.
Well, the truth is,
This is a good business model. I like everything I'm hearing.
but the truth be told, I mean, you really can't sell a fish tank. That's a big misconception of Tank It Easy. So there's people that want these things and they want to invest and put it together in their home, or we do a number of schools in the area as well.
Or office.
Office, definitely a lot of offices, but it's one of those things
Right
that
down the street. I was.
no problem. We can
your
take
car.
care of that. But at the same time, I say you can't sell a fish tank because we just like to display them. And if someone is interested and they want that kind of thing, we'll walk them through that. Now, I think there was a TV show that was on Animal Planet called Tanked. Now, Tanked has been great for the business. However, it doesn't always tell people the price tags. So people can get imaginative about the different tanks they saw Shaquille O'Neal purchase. Okay, but I think for sometimes to understand what your budget is, I think to realize that there's a tank for every budget. However, some of the smaller tanks, warning, they're a lot more challenging. So you think
smaller the tank?
The smaller the tank.
Why is that?
Well, mainly because of evaporation.
Okay.
And the size of equipment you can put on there. So that sometimes sounds like I'm trying to sell a fish tank. Not only am I trying to sell a fish tank, it sounds like I'm trying to sell a bigger fish tank. But what I'm trying to say is they're called nano aquariums. And nanos are like 12 gallons to 30 gallons. Yeah, something like this. And though they are cute and they are executable, it really doesn't always leave me the space for some of the equipment that I need to set a customer up for success.
The ecosystem isn't big enough.
Well, it can be. However, you're going to need to do a lot more manual labor. If I don't have there's certain equipment like a phosphate reactor or a protein skimmer. There's different ones that, similar to an air conditioner for your home, you kind of want to have you don't want to undersize it.
Yeah.
You want to be a little bit bigger. So to have a box for that science to happen usually exists in a filter that goes beneath the tank. And so those smaller tanks, it's called, I'm throwing a lot of lingo at you, but it's called an IFS, where it's integrated filtration system. An integrated filtration system, I understand because I've been doing this for my whole life, but someone who's just getting into it, you also can't see it. So imagine I'm the fish tank, here's all the fish swimming around. You're supposed to understand the mechanics of what the different chambers that are in the back. And that can be very challenging. And if you can't see it, it's going to bite you eventually because you can't get all the funk and different stuff out. It's much more labor intensive to make that little box look really good, where if you got, instead of a 12 or a 30 gallon, you went to a 55, 75, or 100 gallon, that tank is going to be less like a wave runner and more like an ocean liner, where it's just, once it's in a good place, it's going to kind of run and go in that direction and be more successful. But also, the fun thing that I did with my father for countless weekends growing up is we would go to the local fish store and pick out a fish. Well, you get about two to three trips on a small tank like that because you can't populate it. You can't make this, I call it like a screensaver approach, where we like to fill it with a lot of fish and have a community. Otherwise, you're looking at clownfish, which everyone loves, and thank God they're very hardy fish. They're really good starter fish. But if you don't have that extra space, that real estate, it's much more tight parameters. There's a lot more hand dosing, and there's a lot of trial and error, which I don't think anyone wins. I think your pocketbook gets affected by if you're bringing home livestock that isn't making it. You're also trying to retrofit equipment that isn't always safe for your insurance purposes. If you have a hang on the back filter where there's a potential for leakage, I often tell my customers, I'm like, hey, I really am not comfortable with this situation on your hardwood floors. But when you have a system that is completely integrated, when the power goes out and everything turns off and all the water balances, and the water doesn't go anywhere. Every one of these systems are in that situation. If the power went out in Chicago, all the tanks would just balance out and there'd be no water on the floor. Where if you have some of these smaller tanks where you have to kind of integrate some other sciencey stuff on the back, engineer it, it's more expensive and it's usually undersized for the tank anyway. So it's kind of like it's the difference between like a toy and actually a life support system. So just spending a little bit more on the front end, or Craigslist is your best friend, or Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. I constantly have customers that are like, is this a good deal? Should I get this? Well, of course it's a good deal. Someone's already paid full price and you can get your hands on it. So I guess I should say, you can't sell a fish tank. I don't want to sell a fish tank unless it's something that makes sense for the home or the family. But the idea that, I'm going to get this this is at least a less expensive one. If at the end of the day you end up buying 3 tanks to get to the one that you actually end up with, that could be resource.
Start off with the big one.
If you start off, not big one is relative, but one that is the amount of real estate that you can give up in your condo. Because I deal with a lot of condos where people are like, hey, I only have this much space. We kind of fight for it, however, but we're talking about an extra foot. An extra foot of real estate, you're going to thank yourself later for making that decision, because more trips, more cool colors and light, and then also you're having a much healthier system where you're not just running to the fish store before you have a party to try to put livestock in. That's cruel, as opposed to having pets that can live with you for years to come. And I think I mentioned this to you earlier, my personal tank, I've had 2 clownfish for 12 years. So the lifespans of these fish can really, if you take care of them, they'll reward you with bright colors, and they'll be your buddies, your friends. They greet us at the tanks when we go to feed and
Just
whatnot.
when I walked around here, the fish all came to the front. I couldn't think of the last time I was able to have that experience of being in a room where I could walk right up to a fish tank. It's been a while.
Yeah,
And get greeted by them.
Yeah.
Like, happy to see you.
for sure.
You said life support. It made me think of a generator. Do you have tanks or clients that have tanks big enough where they need a generator if the power were to go out?
I think it's one of these things that, like, your pet, you think of, like, dogs, I think, and cats people are really familiar with, but when you get intimately attached to these things, there's no limit to the amount of investment people will make to make sure that they're safe. One of the ways for that is, some of our clients have backup generators for their home, but they make sure that the circuit that their fish tank is connected to is a part of that. So the bare necessities, temperature is one thing in Chicago we think about, but there's heaters on those, or sometimes people will just get a backup gas generator that, in the case of an emergency, they just keep in the box in their garage, and it's just dedicated to the fish tanks. Or some of my clients, they have a power outage. You have more time than you think as long as the temperature is maintained, but just, as you think about it, in your refrigerator, if the power goes out, you don't always lose all your stuff, but keeping that door shut is important. Letting the temperature dictate. If it's too cold for you, we might have to start talking about other actions to take care of it. But we clean about 200 to 250 tanks a month, and I rarely have that issue come up. But if it does, we're prepared for that.
On the F&B space, how do you come up with the menu, what you're going to offer? How do you go about that?
This place evolved a lot during the initial inception, and the idea that we had a couple of different renditions before we got really comfortable. One of the ideas behind this entire place, though, too, and what we use the phrase "get lost." The idea is you won't see a TV in here. kind of what Brian alluded to is like, living art. So we really want people to immerse themselves in just like surround yourself with this, surround yourself with conversation. It was one of the things that I think we all really lost in COVID was that human connection. So when this really came to,
You should take people's cell phones when they walk in.
We are definitely a regular menu, no QR code menus in here, because I'm actually really guilty that you put a phone in my hand, you ask my wife, you got no attention from me anymore. But that same idea is like, if we can keep the electronics in people's pockets, go back to the regular menus, get rid of the TVs, and really get back to just like the human connection, get back to conversations. And we've obviously, and it's already been magnificent with the friends and family at the soft opening. You get a lot of, people are just more immersed in the environment, in themselves. So that was like the first stage, the first thought behind this was to really get people that human connection, and again, surrounding them by living art. So you just kind of, you feel life all around you. To match that, we are trying to keep more of a small bites. It's something that we're all going to enjoy, we're all going to experience. So that menu kind of move that direction of like, instead of just everybody having their own individual meal, let's get something that's a little bit more for the table and small bites. And something we're both going to have that experience rather than you have your dish, I have my dish. So getting the idea of like, hey, we're all going to experience kind of the same thing. We went with with the space that we had, we decided to just go with a cold kitchen. So we're a cold scratch kitchen. I'm still in shock and awe that we had the brilliance in Chef Daniel that I was able to ask him to be like, can you design an entire menu without a kitchen? And
how do you choose your chef?
Huh?
How do you choose your chef? Like Chef Daniel?
Chef Daniel, well, he's been with us. He's our executive chef. He's been with us with Whiskey Business, with Cheesy's, been with the company for a couple of years now. This was the first opportunity for him to actually like flex exactly what's up there, and it was magnificent. But you go from, maintaining grilled cheese kitchens and we were burgers and wings at Whiskey Business, to have that up here and to kind of almost, I would think, kind of caged in that regard, and being able to come and just be like, just work your brilliance and above and beyond.
It's gonna be fun for him.
It was fun for all of us, but especially
one tasting after the next. I was just like, wow.
What's that process look like? How do you come up with the menu? How many iterations are there of it?
Honestly, I think you guys set the target. You set the mark for Chef Daniel, and you just kept just wowing us with family dishes, like certain pieces that were passed down from his mom to every type of cut and presentation.
The first rendition, actually, we were like, maybe we're going to be more of a charcuterie plate, maybe just like charcuterie and dessert. Maybe this is like a place before you go out to dinner or after you're going out to dinner or going to see a show, you just come here and have a little something. And that was kind of the first rendition. Chef Daniel threw a couple other things in that. And we're like, wow, let's go down that path a little bit more, and essentially just said, you know what, like, just run as wild as you want. And the first menu that he presented, our first tasting, I couldn't believe what was possible with again, having such a limited space in that kitchen, and what he was able to create in every dish, which fits this mood very well. And it's one of those things where like sometimes that universe just unfolds like just too perfectly with everything that like the amount of ambiance that we put in here and the brilliance and the colors, and for Chef Daniel to look at that, and he made that on each plate.
Yeah. Can we invite Chef Daniel to bring some stuff?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
Would you mind? Can you show us what you got over here? I mean, I hate to just cut in there, but like, he's just so tremendous in the way that he describes it. Yeah, please. Yeah.
And it was every dish. It's. I mean, Daniel might be able to explain a little bit though, but the importance of like it looks as delicious as it tastes. Looks as delicious as it tastes.
Right here you have a mezcal cured salmon with a little bit of cucumber salsa, sliced cucumber, caviar, and a little bit of dill for presentation. And on this side we have the beef root hummus with tahini yogurt and pita bread, a little bit of olive oil, pistachios, and basically just straightforward dishes. When we created this menu...
Hold on, nothing looks straightforward. This looks so elaborate.
Well...
He's super humble, but this is like
Chef Daniel, come on.
This menu was, like Tony said, it was created to be more for like 1 bite, 2 bites, and then you go to dinner, or right after dinner sort of mentality. But then as this place was coming together, we started to realize that we wanted to do more and flex a little bit more in terms of like seafood and other options that we had available. That we have available. The mezcal salmon right now is looking like it's gonna be one of our heavy hitters. Everyone is loving it based on friends and family feedback. The hummus is the other one that's also gonna be a really heavy hitter for us. Very complex components to go with these dishes, but however, just the love that go into each one of them. Since I was a little boy, I was taught to really put my all when I did something, and that's just the way I do everything. I don't drive with my heart, I drive with my brain. Sorry, I don't drive with my brain, I drive with my heart. Sorry, a little confused. And this is just what I can create and put forward when I'm driving with that force. Finally, like Tony said, able to show a little bit of what I'm capable of doing, and one of my bigger flexes are the fact that I have worked in so many different cuisines and I can incorporate them all together. So I'm not the chef that knows one style of cuisine, I'm the chef that knows a few styles of cuisines that can combine together, and those flavor profiles play well because of some.
What is giving the hummus this color?
Beets.
Beets.
Yeah. Very straightforward, pretty dishes. A lot of these dishes reflect the corals and the fish tanks and everything that has to do with the sea world, but also a little bit of the vegetarian options there as well, and playing around with flavors that a lot of people don't really play with. Here at Los Reef, we curate, we dry age, we infuse, and we poach. A lot of chefs don't do all of the concepts together, but I'm the kind of chef that says, why not? We technically should. And because we can and we're able to do it, this is why we can deliver to you.
When you were told you only had a cold kitchen to work with, where did your mind go?
Everywhere. There's a lot of concepts that you can play with in regards to that. I think
This is great. We
The
can go
most-
straight to the center and move it out.
everything is just
It's so good.
so every dish here is kind of like disconstructed, and a lot of people call it a little bit lazy, but it's just more of like what you do when you can try one bite from this side and then another bite from this side, and then you mix it all together, and it's a whole different experience.
Every bite's a little different.
Exactly.
From like 5 chews into this, and
Exactly.
every chew is a little different.
It's just building layers on top of layers of flavor and just really hitting very strong ball punches of flavor.
I think my favorite comment that we received so far is you taste everything together, but you taste everything separately. And it's, I mean, to be able to have that on your palate at both times, to be like, taste everything individually, but then together it all.
Comes together.
Yeah.
How many items are on the menu?
Right now, 12. 12.
It's a good amount.
It's a great amount. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already created for all of us. It's just about how you present it. I think you just gotta do things right, and you don't have to try to go the extra mile to make it harder on your staff. I think my chefs are very capable of delivering this menu as it is. However, if we're gonna do something, let's just do it right and then just run with that.
Okay, so the hummus beats pistachio.
Base pistachio. That is tahini yogurt on the top, and you got pistachios, obviously, a little microgreen, olive oil, cumin, salt, and pepper.
Cumin. Yeah, that's what it was.
That ties it all together.
Yeah, really.
Correct.
And then what's are in here?
That's a little cucumber roll with avocado crema inside of it. And we got cream of caper as well, and obviously caviar on top.
It looks like the ocean,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Let's go. I just noticed that. And how long did it take you to come up with this?
5 days.
Stop.
So I did my first menu tasting. Tony called me on Friday and said, "You have free will." I automatically went crazy because free will means, caviar and white truffles and black truffles to just whatever you can think of. However, it was more of like that chef drill mentality of like, let's not just flex all the way right away. Let's start light with something cool and then flex in the summer once we have these doors open and the windows open, or however we're gonna do it. I'm already working on the summer menu and brunch menu. That's just
So it's going to switch seasonally? Oh, okay.
yeah. So this is basically like a summer
Wait, this
menu.
is winter? Yeah, I was going to say
This
is
is
not
this
winter.
is like a summer menu, but what I wanted to do with this is really bring in the heat to the cold weather, and then once the summer hit, really flex with the summer vegetables and fruits that we can use.
And did they tell you that there's going to be a $55 cocktail on the menu?
No, we didn't. We didn't.
Because this seems to go right in line with that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what everyone's talking about.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
what grabbed
I
my
feel like
eyes.
we had so much out there, and then an article gets picked up like $55 cocktails. Like, we did so much in this environment. I'm like, it's cool. We're glad. We're really excited about that opportunity and really being able to offer something that, we picked some spirits that you really don't find in cocktails. And Michael Aboud, again, he curated this menu, and he knocked the signature drinks right out of the park, and that was actually way quicker than we thought. And then we decided, hey, I mean, can we even get a little bit more adventurous? So he started designing some drinks that have way higher appeal, and decided to try and make more of an experience out of a lot of the things. So, you know, we're not just dropping a cocktail off with some of the drinks on our menu. We've got the smoked bubbles, we got a smoked Manhattan, and then that treasure chest just goes the full 10 yards. And I've seen it on Instagram now. I mean, it's hard to describe just the feel, the look when that gets dropped off, and that light hits you in the face with the smoke, and then obviously the taste beyond. We're using currently aged Taylor small batch on there, which again, it's a little bit harder to get out there, so not many people are going to make a cocktail out of it and make it work as well as Michael has done. So
You said flex, and that drink is the definition of flex. And it's kind of cool to have a place where it's like, you know, you can get that there, and that's going to be such a sought after place to go to for that drink. I mean, everything else is great. This is such a cool environment.
Yeah.
That's going to be the tip, right? That's really going to get people here.
Yeah,
And then they come here and love it. They'll be here many more times for everything else.
yeah, and it's funny because there's a lot of people, like, it's not going to be for everybody, and that's the thing is, like, you know, our menu is, you could spend as little or as much as you want in here.
I'm gonna excuse myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Chef Daniel. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you can spend as little or as much as you want here. Like, you know, the drink menu, we have an amazing happy hour, but your drinks range from about, 14 on the classic cocktail menu all the way up to like 20, like 16 to 20 on or 16 to 19 on our signature menu. So, it's nothing outrageously out of line with the rest of the city right now. It's just like when people saw that 55, they're like, oh my God. You're like, okay.
But at the same time, like, I think that's great because that is a way to celebrate. Okay, so if you have a special occasion, something, a monument, or something you really want to bet, like,
It's Valentine's Day today. I mean,
exactly.
You guys open tonight?
We're not.
You're not? Okay.
Next year we will be. We didn't mean to break any hearts out there, but we are definitely very focused on opening to the level of our staff being trained so that when you come into this space, you're having an undeniable experience. And so if that means, not taking catching the low-lying fruit, the low-hanging fruit just to quick make a buck, that's not what this place is about. This place is actually about quality and an experience that you can share with your friends and family, and you feel really good about the dollars spent. There's places you can spend, I mean, right now with inflation, you go to Potbelly's, you go to Subway, there's a lot of things that there's a certain amount of cost has gone up. So we figured out if you're anything like me and you want to go out and just have a good time and you don't do it that often and you want it to be memorable, this is a way to do that. But at the same token, let's say you're going to a concert, or you're going somewhere else, you have other plans. This is something that can be incorporated into that evening that's just going to elevate that experience so much more. So by losing the TVs, having good music, good food, and good drinks, you can literally make it as extravagant as you would like, or as humble as you would like, and just really appreciate what's going on here. We really didn't want to exclude anyone, but we want to make sure that there's a space that if you do have a celebration, you have that date that you really want to make an impact. Or if you want to have that business meeting with someone to say, hey, let's talk some business over in a place that is peaceful and calming. It's known that fish tanks lower your blood pressure.
Oh, yeah. I dropped 7 points since last week.
Nice.
So, yeah.
It's like looking at the water, right? If you have a water view, same idea.
It's very
Makes sense.
much like that, but that's why it's so popular in doctors' offices. It's very popular in dentists' offices. When you have anxiety about what's happening, it'll bring down your anxiety.
Never thought about that.
Well, I also, for couples, I mean, constantly, I get feedback, right? So we usually sit down with a couple about what their design ideas are, and we kind of lay it all out. But it's interesting how there's usually someone who's really championing in, this is what I want to do, and the other one's like, oh, here we go.
You mean the wife versus the husband?
Or all everything in between.
Yeah.
But what's funny is the roles kind of change, where someone who wasn't necessarily an advocate originally becomes that advocate. They're like, oh my gosh, I love it for all these different reasons, but where I find it happen the most is where there is a TV playing. Someone's watching Housewives, someone's watching football or basketball, whatever's going on. You can decide what to tune into with still spending time with your significant other. You can be on the couch, you can be in a space, and you can drift off and look at the tank while still hearing what's going on in the conversation. You're not completely checking out. Vice versa happens where in my home we don't turn the TV on as much even, because the conversation can happen around the fish tanks. And after getting that feedback from my clients and getting that feedback from people that when I entertain is that, wow, to really share that when people are looking forward to coming over to your home because you have a piece like that. That's what this restaurant, that's what this cocktail lounge is about this social experiment of getting lost together, of actually having that community of people that you're going to have a drink and you're going to have some food, you're going to share it, it's going to be memorable for whatever you're into. Hopefully we hit one of those marks for you. And then, just through natural sharing of good times, you're going to want to come back again and again or refer to people that are looking for something unique. Chicago is really big for going out and having a good meal. We don't need to be the only place you go, but for someone who is visiting Chicago, it might be one of the stops you don't want to miss out on.
I think you hit the nail on the head because hospitality, on the hospitality side, because so many places now, you're getting a smaller portion, your bill's larger, and the services seem to suffer a little bit.
Sure.
And if you guys are focusing on all of those elements, people don't have a problem spending money. They just want to know that the value is there when they're doing it. And I feel like that experience has dwindled after the last few years. And there's a lot of reasons why. It's not anyone's fault. It's just, it's tough. The labor market's really tough for this. How was staffing for this? Was it hard to get the right people here?
And the space has been very generous in that. I mean, having this intimate atmosphere, 60 seats, with 12 at the bar for like 70 people. So it doesn't take much to operate this efficiently. So we have a small team. I think it's like 15 total. And there's a lot of challenges with our other locations that are 3,000 plus square feet.
Yeah.
It takes a lot, and it's difficult in those times. And we also, that actually is why we're only open Wednesday through Sunday. One of those reasons being, it's just like we can have more full-time, dedicated, so you see the same person. You come in here, you have the same host, the same bartender, the same
When I go
manager.
somewhere and you have that same person every time, it's a level of consistency that you see less and less.
Yeah, and it's easier to take care of people that way too. When you have that team
That's a good
environment, and you
Yeah,
have
on both sides of the bar.
Exactly. You have a home for somebody. Somebody doesn't have to work 3 different jobs part time. They can have just this place, and we've tried to schedule it so it's like, we want to be here 5 days a week. We'd love to, have as much of that as possible.
And to have control as far as rewarding the staff that is here so they can grow. And when you bring someone new in and there's already 15 people that have it down, that other person's going to become alpha very fast as far as understanding the ways. Mm-hmm. So being very intimate as far as the building itself, to be able to cater to people's needs and kind of do everything necessary. Bless you. You can see from different areas a lot of fish tanks, but that means you can also see a lot of the customers.
When I'm right here, there's 4. There's 5. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, and so they're getting that wow factor, but at the same time to be able to be right there when service is needed. Dirty plate, here we go, it's gone. All right, here's your new refreshing waters. Being able to identify the cocktail is just about over. Checking in to make sure, but also being able to read the room and read people's facial expressions to understand, are they having a moment? Let's let them enjoy their moment and know when to approach. And I'm learning this, not because I've been in the bar world, but from the staff. The staff are telling me tips and tricks and are sharing with each other. Iron sharpening iron in this small room has just been so powerful. And so I think by choice, and we're not only the location, but the actual building itself, to give people that privacy and able to enjoy that moment, time just kind of stands still for a while, and just watching the customers so far. And we're very excited for the 15th for our grand opening, to even share it with more people who have no idea, no preconception, maybe some photographs online, to really watch how much life is in this room, in the staff, and actually the passion and the food and the drinks, I think is really just going to reward people for venturing out, for going out to have that good time and be pleasantly surprised that, wow, there's so much more than we initially would have thought.
Never being in the bar restaurant space before, what was it like entering this?
I go into these spaces a lot as a consumer, and I do go in these spaces a lot to make accents as far as the different aquariums, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was not intimidating because I've known Tony for almost 20 years, and I've watched his success and watched the people management from time to time, and this man is just very dedicated to all of that. So I was very confident in that realm, and I was also very confident. I come from a world of doing a lot of trade shows. So where I will set up, 10 to 15 different saltwater aquariums for a weekend. Yeah, so it's a lot of brute strength, a lot of movers moving in and out, We partner with really great groups in Chicago, the Chicago Marine Aquarium Society, which we call CMAS, and their dedication to lifting the hobby up and really kind of taking folks that may not have the means for an aquarium, pointing them out so that when we have used equipment, we can help cater to them. But also, trade shows like Reefapalooza, Aquashella. These are all trade shows that come to the Schaumburg Convention Center, and 6,000 to 7,000 people will show up in 2 or 3 days.
67,000 people?
No, 6 to 7.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they go all across the country, and there's a lot of these aquarium people, these fish guys and gals that come out, and they're diehards for this kind of stuff. They look for it and they save their dollars up there to purchase different types of coral and to set up those systems to show people what's possible in the service realm has been exhausting for the past however many years that we've done this. However, the idea of coming into a restaurant situation where we can set up a home base and get these tanks running and get them more established instead of just kind of the tank style of doing everything in a day or two, it's not fair to the animals, it's not fair for a lot of different reasons, but to make a home where people can enjoy them and keep revisiting, just like, some people like going to the zoo. They don't need to necessarily have a lion or a bear. They don't necessarily want a giraffe in their house, or that doesn't even make sense. But for them to go visit and enjoy is really the nice part. So you don't necessarily have to have the budget to put one of these aquariums in your home or office. But how cool is it that you get to come, have a drink, get some delicious food, and enjoy all those things at once? For me, it was just like, yeah, when do we start? How can we do this? Great, I'm going to start getting this together now. Because ultimately, the more people that know about what's possible, the more people that are more apt to appreciate nature, get more involved with, one of the charities that this lounge is connected to is the Coral Restoration Foundation. So they actually build structures and regrow coral in areas that have been devastated by pollution. You could call it a bunch of different things, but there is definitely a need in some areas to regrow and repopulate. Where in Australia it happens with cyclones and hurricanes, and up in our end of the world. I mean, there's just so much benefit that the ocean brings us for us to take care of it and give back. It's very educational. It's very much spreads the word of that this isn't just something that you see. You don't have to travel 30 hours to go get a scuba certification and go see some of this stuff. To literally see this in the Midwest and share that with a community that necessarily doesn't see a lot of this type of color and this type of salt water even get to the ocean. There's plenty of people that probably still, this is their first real taste of that experience, and visually, just to get the idea of what's actually beneath the water. I think unless you watch Finding Nemo, you might not know.
That's like the third Finding Nemo reference today, I think.
Well, they've been a great attribute to us as well. Nemo, people walk in here and they point at the clown. They don't even call it a clownfish anymore. They call it Nemo. So I have Disney to thank for that. But also they did a really good job with education as far as the characteristics that they have chosen. I can tell you, the blue tang really does act like Ellen DeGeneres.
What was one of the biggest challenges with this entire project?
Gosh, I have to say it's a hard question to really address. We had our opening, friends and family, our little soft opening, and obviously you got friends and family here, so things are going to go kind of smooth. But again, I've opened up about 21 restaurants, 20 plus restaurants in my life, and from being a host to a server to a manager, been all over the charts. And this by far was the smoothest and easiest opening I've ever been a part of. So I think it's even hard to answer that question right now with what's still challenging. Is I've been so astonished by how easy the last week has been, just kind of getting everybody acclimated. I'm like, wow, it has, I think, pushed away a lot of the challenges that we did face throughout the last 8 months. The biggest challenge was with these tables. I think that was how many renditions we had. This was one big tree essentially. It was
this is a solid piece of wood.
All of
That's
this
what I
was
noticed. Every single one is one solid piece.
Yeah,
for sure.
So
it came down to finishing and different, with temperature being what it is, with some of the, especially the walnut tables, there was a little bit of.
Those are a little thicker.
Those are a lot thicker.
So
yeah.
is this walnut?
This is wenge and walnut.
That's well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are thicker too.
They are thicker. They come in different thicknesses, but obviously some of the cupping that happens with some of the moisture, like they are dried out and they are kiln dried and all that happens. But when you start gluing things and cutting things, it sometimes gets a little tricky, especially with the thicker stuff. And then table stands, and then all of a sudden, this is the one I would say, is we started getting just regular, table bases. Started realizing that I don't know if this is really the most stable, and I don't really like the way this is wiggling.
Well, everyone's been to a restaurant, and you're like, can I have what's the thing called? Underneath the thing that goes in the bottom.
Matchbook or something.
Or coaster or something.
There's that little wedge. Like, can I get the wedge for the bottom,
shim,
right? Yeah, every single time. And then we were moving these tables around to set up for today, and you're like, oh, let me just unscrew this. I'm like, why doesn't every restaurant have this?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was so nice.
Setting it up for just a little bit more success by having, so these I built these with Tyler, my carpenter, and we just, we're like, hey, we need table legs and stands, let's go. We're gonna build these. But the idea being very secure, very stable. We want a larger person to be able to push down and have a little bit more stability to it, all the different plates, and then you have all the drinks and everything else. Do it right the first time and just move on. I think the first time I was kind of playing around with different colors and whatnot, and just to actually get it to match, we landed on a flat black, which is great. But yeah, all these little things that I think maybe some people notice, but hopefully if we're doing our job right, no one's gonna be able to really tell what part they like the best. It's just gonna be more, hopefully just very comfortable.
That's always a sign of good design, where no one even notices it, right? Like, it's there, you notice it's great, but no one's talking about it because there's nothing to talk about, because it's working, it's functioning. And then maybe you're thinking about it later, wait, yeah, why do I love this place? I don't know. The service is great, the drinks are great, the ambiance is great, and the tables don't, right? Look at that, this doesn't move at all.
It's stable, so that's the good thing, except when we're trying to restructure or move things around for different parties' potential. It takes a little more brute force to do it.
Bigger.
Yeah. However, that's a good. I would definitely rather have the heavier furniture to move as opposed to flimsy furniture.
Yeah. And I honestly, if like the most challenging thing was tables, I think we did a really good job. Like I can't think of a lot of things. And again, the space was pretty easy. It was it was all decorative basically in here and tanks. So it wasn't like there was a lot that went into it. And it was like, getting these and trying to map out the space and having some different renditions. And again, trying to get the overall goal in here is like trying to, we obviously need to get as many as we can here, but we don't want to compromise anybody's experience. So it's like keeping it as intimate as possible, not jam-packing everybody in here, but utilizing the space. And I think it was trying to map this out a few different times. I mean, that was probably, the two challenges were probably just like getting that idea of like being able to, I would say, fit as many people in here without feeling like you're like getting squished into an environment.
Well, I already get that feeling, because you said about 70 people, you said 60 and then 12 at the bar, right?
Yeah.
And if every single table here was full, you'd feel great.
Yeah.
You would not be crowded, not at all. And the way the tanks are set up, everyone has their own little section, right?
Right.
Like, you have your own tank in a way. Everyone's looking at a tank. No matter where you sit, you're looking at a tank, right? At least one.
I mean,
at least three.
Yeah, I challenge you to sit in any of the seats and kind of tell me how many you see. Usually you can see 3 to 4. Sometimes you can see 6, 7. There's a couple spots where you could probably see all 8.
Have you sat here and thought about that?
Every seat.
And you're doing it from the floor plan in the beginning?
Every seat in the house, for sure.
How many floor plan renditions did you go through? Do you know?
Honestly, I'd say probably 15 to 20. But in the sense of, from a theater perspective, trying to make sure that everyone has a good seat.
Yeah.
And then it's really 3D as well, because I think I was telling you about this earlier, is that a lot of mass-produced fish tanks are very low, and you almost have to like lean down to see them.
Yes.
And so these tanks, everyone is about 48 inches off the ground. And so to be able to see that, if someone is really admiring a fish tank, hopefully it's the silhouette of their head that is in the way. And with the fish moving, that head is only in your way for a moment. But most of the people that are going to be sitting are going to be out of the way completely. And so that was by design, so that everyone's sight lines are unobstructed.
Interesting. I never thought about that. You're right. Because all the fish tanks are in a space where there aren't people, right? Like, I guess this one would be the only exception.
Well, we have some booths where, like, the back of someone's shoulder, but
she's sitting there right there, and that's perfect, because she's not blocking anything.
Not at all.
Oh, that's really smart.
Yeah, so
that's really subtle.
Yeah, so we do that in a lot of settings, because you think of a family gathering where a lot of people are gathering into the family room where the tank is, or it's in a living space. A lot of times I try to treat fish tanks as windows. So to appreciate the window and look out the window is kind of what you're doing. It becomes this like 3D depth thing, and it also brings life and energy into spaces that might be darker. So if you have again, not to sell fish tanks, but if you were thinking about one for your home, think about the room you use the least. I'm not talking about the basement, but a room that, that living room that your mother wouldn't let you go in, couldn't touch the pillows, couldn't touch anything. If you want that room to become alive, you put something like that there. A conversation room of sorts that's away from the TV is one option. But my personal favorite is to actually have it close by to a TV and see how much less your TV turns on.
I love that you have no TVs here. Was that part of the theme all along?
From number one.
Number one. That was the one thing that we knew going into this. That's our number one goal. Was connection, and then removing that element altogether. Everything else played a little bit around, pivoted a little bit here and there, but that was always the number one. I know we tasted some food. I don't know if it's time to maybe see all the tricks that Michael has up his sleeves. But yeah, the drink menu, get Mike over here, we'll maybe make a few cocktails. You already know what you're going to do back there? You got a few of them coming up.
Beautiful.
So yeah, that was, and again, that was, I think our drinks were like the first round. Almost everything that Abood created was just a winner, which is, again, with Daniel, Chef Daniel, that first, that second one, we're just like, all right, unleash the handcuffs, do what you want to do. Like that first round, we're like, God, it's almost all winners. And kind of the same thing happened when Mike got behind there and started curating all these. It was just drink after drink. The balance and everything is just.
And I think it's easy to hear some of these things and be like, oh, sure, this is your bar. Of course, everything's delicious. But I challenge anyone listening to this, please come, put us to the test. It's like the universe was speaking to us through the team and the talent that has come together. We have the best staff that is literally from around the city in very professional place settings, and they've kind of all reached out and kind of like, we're all like on this team that is just lights out. Like the idea of like the cocktails themselves, I've been watching at this point, hundreds and hundreds of people try this stuff. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yeah. And some of them that are very critical. Some of them are my clients. Some of my clients tell me when something isn't great real fast. And they were just all over this of just being like one dish after the next. And I don't want to spoil it for you guys watching at home, but I think you really should just, you owe it to yourself to at least try one thing, one drink, and tell me if that doesn't blow your socks off and you don't want to try more stuff. If not, send me a message, Brian at Tank It Easy, and I'll make sure to take care of you.
With everything I'm hearing, and we haven't tried anything yet, but it really seems like you let your expertise guide you instead of your bias. And I find a lot of times you go into anyone's business, and I think I'm probably guilty of this in some ways too. Your bias can lead in some directions, but your expertise needs to lead throughout. And I hear no bias in anything you guys are saying or doing. It's like you looked at what you wanted to accomplish, you brought the right team surrounding you in order to accomplish it, and then here we are about to experience the drinks themselves. You can see it in the layout and everything that we're looking at. I can't wait to see what's next.
For sure.
I think we also touched on one cool thing that we need to bring to the table too, is the idea you're talking about the Great Barrier Reef. And one of the really cool things about these tanks that has been, again, the fortunate nature that we're open from 4 p.m. to midnight. Great Barrier Reef is on the other side of the planet, obviously. So being able to actually emulate the sunrise and sunset for the Great Barrier Reef is what all of this life is on that time zone. Because the sun is rising in the Great Barrier Reef when we're opening our doors, basically, and it's setting when we're closing our doors.
The schedule mimics that. It's a little bit of both. I mean, I've always been reminded of that because a lot of my clients, I'll kind of share, you get about 8 to 10 hours of aquarium light time, daytime. Okay. But that doesn't always have to.
So you have to shut it off.
Oh yeah.
It needs darkness like anything else.
Oh, absolutely.
I never thought about it.
But I get as an aquarium owner, you get to decide what their day is, and it makes the most sense to go around your schedule when you're going to be home. Mm-hmm. That way, that day you get to observe and enjoy. Not that they wouldn't appreciate, the function of the aquarium to be to have the different light. But for when you are home is when it makes the most sense. Now it's very, in a utopian world, this is happening exactly as it would be if they were home on the reef. Now there's also different areas and regions these are all from if we want to get very specific. But the fact that it actually does emulate the Great Barrier Reef is the fish nerd in me gets a lot of joy out of that. And I just think it's a fun little nuance that it does actually, we get to accomplish that here.
So did you cut hours of business? Like, could you have been open till 2 and you decided not to?
As far as, our hours,
Not for that reason.
No?
Not for that
Okay.
reason. No, definitely not. All right, this is Michael Abood.
Yes.
Hey, thanks, Michael.
So this is the Gold Coast, Santa Teresa Solera aged rum, pineapple juice, banana liqueur, allspice jam, lime juice, pineapple fronds as garnish. Yeah, very tasty, a little tropical.
The color's great.
Yeah.
Gold Coast for sure. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for
Cheers.
doing this.
Cheers.
Really appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
The banana liqueur is just so subtle, but it really sets off everything.
Yeah.
It's really good. And it's just been like one after the next. I mean, I'm not kidding. I think you have to kind of pace yourself and, obviously drink responsibly, but also choose responsibly too, what it is that you want and make sure you kind of have a mental picture. I don't think this is something that you're going to be able to just go, I'm just going to have one cocktail, because you're going to see someone else's that you want to try. So it's really good to kind of scan the room, and I love that about us as well, that you can see a lot of these cocktails kind of go by. You're like, ooh, what is that? I'll be, oh, yes, I'll take that Great Barrier.
Do all the color, are they all colorful?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the other great things too, when you talk about you want to feel good when you spend your money, and yes, a lot of like we're at an 1.5 ounce pour for our singles, and 2.5 to 3 ounces in all of our signature and our cocktails, and it's we want you to be excited and happy about what you're spending your money on, so it is giving you a little bit extra. When you go to a lot of places out here, most of your pours are 1.25 ounces or 2 ounces for your rocks pour. And then again, that's when we wanted to go a little bit above and beyond. Like you feel a little bit better about that money that's going out when you're getting something that you can feel good about.
That's a real thing that's underestimated, and I feel that if someone's run a business for a while, it's easy for them to say, it's fine, right? But as a customer, do you ever want to hear it's fine? Right?
Yeah.
No, never. Because this is it's not too strong. It has a great profile. The color makes me want to know what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Because this isn't a normal color. I don't know. It's gold. Like Gold Coast is a perfect name for it. When we do gold in any of our marketing, we use this Vegas gold color, and it reminds me of this, where it's that rich but like matte gold. It's not super sheen, and it's right there in the middle.
Now the funny part is, when we say it's not too strong, the balance out of it is perfect, and that's the problem. Is like we've had a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, this doesn't. I'm like, it's trust us. After 3, like you'll be in a good place. But yeah, it's and they go down so easy because it just has that that perfect finish and the balance on the palate. Everything again, like the food and the drink just match very well. The presentation goes hand in hand with the flavor.
It has a Caribbean taste, but not sugary like a daiquiri or anything like that. But it's very light, and it makes you feel like you want to be on a beach somewhere.
And that's so nice to hear, actually, because the last thing we want to be is a sugary. Forgive the term, but this isn't a tiki bar by any stretch of it.
And we wanted to make it very and that's because when some people hear tiki bar, two things pop into mind: tourist and hangover.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Because you just think sugar and all this.
And stealing the glasses.
Yeah, and that's exactly. So that was the other thing that we knew kind of right out of the gate. There was 2 things, I guess, that we were very much, obviously, no TVs, and number 2 is we did not want to hinge on that tiki bar. We wanted a very all-inclusive kind of cocktail list.
You're doing the trade shows to sell to other people in this industry. So I was like, who would see you at a trade show?
You'd see families, you'd see people that travel from other states to come to see the trade show where there's other coral vendors. Think of it like a farmer's market.
So is it like an aquarium enthusiast plus industry?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so. So we are a local, Chicago brand, Chicago name, but we're known throughout the country because we've been crazy enough to load up aquariums and livestock and drive to Dallas, and drive to New York, and drive to Tennessee, and drive all around the country.
What's the vehicle look like?
It's a Sprinter van. It's a large Sprinter van, and we have inverters that will keep the systems running while we're driving, which is something we kind of not trademark, but we definitely ventured out into that, where a lot of people put things into coolers. Coolers like either like Coleman coolers or big styrofoam, the boxes where everything's bagged with heat packs if it's that time of year, and then before traveling, you're just hoping you don't break down, hoping there isn't a cold. If it's, we just had one in Lansing, Michigan, that we went to, and it was a great experience. Always has been. We've done it when it's been sub-zero, and I can tell you one thing that doesn't do well in sub-zero weather. That's livestock. You have very little time to get those puppies warm.
So is there an equal emphasis on coral versus fish?
The reason coral gets such attention is because it doesn't, in any aquarium, if you go to a local fish store, they're going to talk to you about fish load. They're going to talk to you about how many fish you can have in the tank, or how many inches of fish. It gets very specific. However, going back to the story of going to the fish store with your kids. Your kids parents and everyone loves to go to the fish store. Well, that's first of all a dying breed because of things like Amazon, and there's different reasons those stores can't stay in business. But a lot of times you have to tell the customer, no, you can't have any more fish because looking at the testing results here, your nitrates are too high, or there's just, the fish load isn't balanced. But where you can get some gratification and some excitement is you can add to the Crayola color box of coral that is in your aquarium by grabbing a little fragmentation of a much more expensive piece, and it actually gets affixed and glued or epoxied into your tank and slowly grows out over time. And it grows, they all grow at different speeds, but one good kind of rule of thumb, no pun intended, is that the speed of your fingernail growth. A lot of them have a nice steady increase that they will go through if you're maintaining it properly. But then, they don't necessarily die of natural causes. The colony just keeps growing.
Could the reef live forever?
Well, the reef has been since, I think, predating a lot of things.
I've never thought of any of this stuff, but we're talking like the reefs are, like the whole emphasis is the reef and keeping the reefs alive. And
absolutely, and I think there's similar to rainforests, how they
it's its own ecosystem in it.
It is, but there's a lot of oxygen. There's a lot of attributes that we really do need the reefs for more than just the eye candy that they are to us. They actually produce a lot of oxygen. They produce a lot of positive aspects, and we all know what sharks are. We all know about turtles. But all the reef, everything is connected. It's an entire ecosystem. So it's very important, and as they repopulate, the coral that is growing builds and keeps everything kind of in balance. And it's a little bit of the canary in the mine type of syndrome of like understanding, are we okay? Is the earth okay? So by replanting and really taking fragments of the coral, which is how we do it at the store, and for Insane Coral is like our brand, but like we will take individual pieces, divide them, and then propagate, let them grow, which makes a lot of people happy on the other side of the coin, saying we shouldn't be taking anything out of the ocean. Cool, heard. We can do that by aquaculturing. And so aquaculturing is what our farm is based on. So we have 16-foot vats in an 8,000 square foot facility that we literally take our favorite pieces that we found around the country that had been taken out of the ocean a long, long time ago. They're little pieces that we then farm and grow so that we can then share with our clients.
So like grafting them in a way?
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. That's exactly what it is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How'd you get into this?
And so my father.
You're such a nerd.
I am. Oh yeah, no,
Coral nerd.
I am, and you know what? It's funny. That's what's so. It's like being in rooms that are full of people that have that same kind of passion. Yeah. You just kind of pick up more of these nerdy traits and kind of share it with everybody else. Usually, if it wasn't for a situation like this, I'm usually trying to take the science out of it and just kind of like, use examples of like, I think I talked earlier about some of the fish kind of being like goats, that they just like to taste everything. We don't need to get super sciencey, but for those that want it, sure, I try to meet them where they are. But yeah, I think people just want it to be beautiful. They just want it to be, they don't want it to be a science project. In fact, a lot of them don't want to know about the science. They just want something that is stunning, that no one's ever seen before in their home or office, and that's where we come in.
The science could almost take away from it for someone.
Especially someone who isn't asking.
Yes.
Yeah, if they don't want to know.
They're like, okay,
Yeah.
like, please, I just want to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at a sun. You don't need to hear about the sun to appreciate a sunrise or a sunset.
I like it.
You don't need
I
to
like
know?
it. Thank you.
Let's appreciate a sunburst.
Oh, nice segue.
Hey, like that?
We should do this more often.
I know, I try.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the Chicago Sunburst, named after the coral. It is a split base between tequila and mezcal with passion fruit, lime juice, and house-made bitters called Sunburst bitters. So it's orange bitters and hellfire. So it does have a slight kick on the back end, but nothing overwhelming to people that aren't into spicy things. Like
So tell me about how you did all this and where these ideas came from.
picking flavors from all across the world, a little on the tropical side. Nothing's overly sweet. Everything's well balanced. So yeah, I mean, we have stuff from like passion fruit, guava, Fresno chilies, a lot of different flavors, you know, like bananas, spiced liqueurs. So yeah, just kind of bringing everything into one perspective, one scope, and offering them here. I chose not to do all of mezcal because I like the slight smokiness. Wanted that to be balanced as well. So equal parts tequila and mezcal.
All of these drinks, I mean, balance is really the right word. We've only had 2 so far, but none of them are overpowering, and all of them make me wonder, what is this? Like, I have a feeling, I have some parts of it,
Yeah.
but then I'm clueless on the other 50%. I
Right.
definitely know 25 to 50%, and then I'm lost after that,
Yeah.
which I think is a really good trait because it leaves the wonder, it leaves the want, and then you keep thinking about it later. You're like, that was good. What was in it again?
Basically, just trying to achieve balance, you know, balancing the citrus, the syrup, the spirits, you know, you're basically finding that balance right there. You don't want anything too sweet, nothing too citrusy. So yeah, once you lock in that balance, then you can play with any flavors.
How'd you get your start in this?
Been bartending about 10 years. For a while, I knew the how to make the drinks, but I didn't understand the why. So basically, you know, I could read a recipe, make that drink. But once I figured out why I'm adding this much syrup, why I'm adding this much citrus, compared to all the other ingredients, to achieve the balance. So once I understood that, then I started playing around with my own drinks and getting more creative.
Well, these last 2 could be on those menus. And do you have any formal training? Whatever that means?
No, I didn't go to bartending school.
Yeah.
No, so I just basically did my own studying in my spare time. You know, instead of scrolling Facebook some nights and scrolling articles and trends and, you know, different flavors and flavor balances and flavor profiles. So yeah, and then you know, kind of couple cocktail books. Just kind of studied up on my own, and there are other bartenders growing up that I look up to that I was able to ask questions about, like, how do you do this? Why do you do that? So basically, I've been hungry to learn, continuous learning, and yeah.
I think one of my favorite stories. So Michael put together the 2 to 3 last cocktail list at Whiskey Business. 2 to 3 at Whiskey Business, and I remember we first started talking about it too. My favorite reaction, because Whiskey Business is a different animal, right? Like, we had some, you know, again, more of that burger. We a little bit more toned down drinks, and I remember when I approached. Yeah, it was, and again, you're like $10 to $12 drinks. Is that kind of where we were at?
Yeah,
and
like 12, 14.
Yeah, and I remember like approaching Michael. Mike, and again, like, you know, we're gonna have to be a little bit more upscale than that. So we, you know, we're gonna be charged a little bit more for that. And I was like, thank God I can do what I want to do now. And it was the coolest reaction, because he's like, finally, like, he was just like, you guys had me, like, it was one of those things too. You had me handcuffed, because, you know, you at that level and what we were doing out there, you couldn't really go that. And
clientele.
You're creating something for that audience, which
Exactly.
which
It
is so
was
cool
great,
that you guys have offerings for different people, right?
Yeah.
Because every different niche and every different business has to serve a certain clientele. You can't serve everyone. You're not going to make everyone happy. You have to be specialized.
Yeah, and yeah, moving from that to and again, the list was great over there, but you weren't able to work with the types of ingredients that we can here now.
Basically, I wanted to get crazier and experiment more and take risks. Yeah.
Well, I was checking out the liquor and I was like, it's a good list. It's a good row or two.
And it's that. I mean, again, for us, there's only so much shelf space back there. We don't have a lot of room in this. It's a tinier space. So
I also love that's not the focal point. Like, you know, sometimes the bar is the focal point. You look at bottles for days, and it's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of cooler things to look at around here, though.
Yeah. But when we selected everything, it's like we can only select so much. Really finite space back there. So yeah, we picked out.
You don't have any rail.
We don't. Actually, we don't. We don't do wells here.
Yeah.
Our baseline is what most people would call their calls, and premiums almost. So again, we want you to have some value in there. We don't want to.
It speaks to the specialty.
You want to come here and drink Bartons or it's like yeah, exactly. Like it's that product that we want to make sure it's plantation rum, Four Roses as our baseline whiskey. Like we want to keep that elevated everywhere. So. And again, it speaks to how we've put everything into every aspect of this space is just as apparent with our selections on our list. So,
Do you have a particular favorite?
I do like them all, obviously, but this one might be one of my favorites.
Every parrot has a favorite child.
I have another cocktail. The Jib is Up. It's a take on the last word. So it's gin-based Luxardo maraschino liqueur, green chartreuse. But the difference is I added cucumber juice, freshly juiced cucumber juice, and made house-made Fresno chili syrup. So it was a little spicy, a little tropical. It's nothing overwhelming, just a slight back-end kick. So people that aren't into crazy spicy things, they're still able to drink it.
There's a lot of shade in that. That's a lot of juxtaposition.
Yeah, but it's delicious.
but again, like every cocktail has that color too. Everything is very much like you notice the gold in there. The Jib is Up has got that nice green hue. Like we got the pink hue out of the Risafe. Everything draws color and flavor and taste, and it gets the overall kind of common theme throughout, which is really, really impressive how the minds that were behind all these like just kind of all connected on every level. Feels really good.
I could sit here and talk about fish tanks all day. Anything you want to leave off with? Anything? We have more drinks to try?
We got one special surprise for you in a second or two here. I think we might want to turn down the lights a little bit to make this. I don't know if it's going to.
Excuse me. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Captain Levinson's treasure chest. Now, some people think that's my name is Levinson,
Okay.
but it's actually named after my grandfather. So my grandfather is 99 years old. He was here for friends and family. He's going to be 100 years old in June. And he is a World War II pilot. He flew a B-24. And he is just one of the most interesting men in the world. Still lives alone. Has a girlfriend. He's robbing the cradle.
Shut up.
He's robbing the cradle. She is in her 80s. And yes, he still drives. And he stopped flying by choice a couple of years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, he flew a B-24 in World War II. So very proud of him, and a lot of my inspiration for my persistence, professionalism, all the rest comes from him. So it was really nice for the team to allow me this honor to bestow upon him.
That's beautiful.
But yeah, it is really cool. So I'm not the captain. I am not the captain, but Captain Levinson. That's what this is. It's buried treasure.
So what does he like to drink?
He likes to drink orange juice. Orange juice, he doesn't really drink that much, although he did enjoy this. He said, ooh, this is so yummy. But yeah, I think he might celebrate occasionally. I think some of his secret is fresh tomatoes, and he says fresh cucumbers, and he likes to have his a salad every day. He has a sandwich on rye every day. And so he walks a lot.
Okay.
Where does he live?
He lives in Glenview.
Like house, condo?
He lives in a house.
Okay.
Yeah,
And 99?
99. Yeah, no, he is definitely a man of mystery.
Does he have a beard?
No, he does not have a beard. He has a very well manicured military compliant mustache.
Okay.
Gets trimmed down and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it is very much up to par. But yeah, he's been going to different air shows and different speaking engagements. There's a picture of him in the Smithsonian of a bar that they had in the Philippines.
Okay.
So that's also kind of bringing it.
That's
back.
cool. Yeah, it ties it all in.
It does. It really does. But yeah, he is an amazing man. You would never guess. I'll show you a picture later. You would never guess that's his age. All right. Are you ready?
Let's do it. Oh, look at that ice cube. That's so cool.
And then if you look at the ice, you saw the ice, yeah.
So, how do you get the ice cubes How do you do this?
I mean, you ever
Magic.
giving up all of our secrets?
Yeah.
I mean, we just met.
But it's so perfect. Like if you were going to do this, I assumed there'd be some imperfections. And I saw this picture online, and I almost assumed it was rendered because it was so good. But seeing it in person, it's perfect. There's no imperfections in the letters.
Yeah, so we do use a machine that we make it in the basement. Makes clear ice cubes. So we pump those out, and we have an ice stamp. Have our name, our logo on there, and voila.
So I think the rest of your day is pretty much going to have to be Ubering from now on.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be wise. How long did it take you to figure this out?
Basically, we wanted to do a top shelf drink. So essentially, it's a Colonel E.H. Taylor small batch with our house bitters. It's a blend of bitters made in house. That one is a secret. But essentially, it's comparable to an old fashioned.
This
but
is
yeah.
much better than an old fashioned.
Yeah.
Like, I understand if you like an old fashioned, you would try this,
Oh yeah,
but this is on a different level.
yeah. Our house bitters definitely help out with that, and the Colonel E.H. Taylor bourbon.
And so how long, how many times, how many tries?
I mean, it was more so about getting this box together and how we're incorporating the box and what drink we want to use in that. We kind of settled on a super solid drink like you have in your hands. But yeah, this whole treasure chest, we wanted something to wow, wanted that wow factor, some Instagrammable.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I think this reaches and targets the right demographic to order this drink too.
Right. Yeah.
If someone's going to spend how much?
55.
$55 on a drink?
$5 goes to the Coral Restoration Foundation.
Okay, so
yeah.
$5 from every drink?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is what it's going to be,
Yeah.
right? And this isn't a light drink. This is like 2 drinks. So to,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
liquor-wise, this is definitely
Like
more.
2.5 or 3 ounces.
2.5.
2.5.
2.5, yeah. So this is solid. You're getting something really nice to hold and look at.
You got some
That's
rich
great.
Demerara syrup in there.
It's very good.
Yeah.
And the treasure chest is made out of walnut as well.
Did you make this?
Yes. Well,
Really?
my carpenter and I, yeah.
Let's see this. You know what it reminds me of? Pulp Fiction.
Absolutely.
How many times I've said that? Marcellus
Yeah,
Wallace.
100%.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, when we had a couple of these ordered, and it just it beams like that. It's
Yeah.
such a
Oh, for
cool.
sure.
On video, it looks amazing.
If you were to lock, the code would have to be 666.
There you go.
Actually, it'd be 1.024. That's the salinity level for the reef.
You're such a nerd.
I'm telling you, every time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But thanks, How. That's
Yeah.
what we call Grandpa. His name's Howard.
And speaking of balance, though, too, the Lost in Manhattan is just a derivative of a Manhattan here. That is just, again, not that it's our place, but the most well-balanced Manhattan I think I've ever had.
I think that's
Like,
the coolest
I
name.
can't-
Lost in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
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 So basically,
I'm thinking of Home Alone. Like, it's right there, right in
Exactly.
it. And that ties into Chicago too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a take on a Manhattan. Use rye as the base. Cardamaro, which is a wine-based Amaro aperitif, fortified wine, essentially. That makes up for the sweet vermouth. And then Drambuie is a Scotch with honey and spices, so that makes up for the Angostura bitters that are normally put into a Manhattan. So between those 3 ingredients, they all play off each other very well and very smooth drinking Manhattan riff.
You can talk about drinks all day.
I can, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we're not just a fish tank bar.
Want to end on this? Does that
Hey,
work?
That's great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is there more to try?
Yeah. No, that's great.
No, it's
Okay.
kind of hit it
That's
all.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, God.
Everything's
Yeah.
so cool. You guys are so great and so nice and so knowledgeable, and I hope all of this goes for success. I mean, you clearly have it. You have all the elements, and you did it so well, and you hired such great people to do it.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah, the
that.
team
Yeah.
behind here is just magnificent.
It's clear.
Yeah.
Everything is done right. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.